feel my system tensing, contracting, trying just to hold myself together for this new big chapter of life that we were going through. And it was this resistance to falling apart. The first time I fell apart as a father, it didn't look good. There was a lot of flailing. Some of that flailing and overwhelm spilled over to my wife, and it was just kind of messy. But when I think back to maybe week 8 or week 9, there were a series of 3 days in a row I had to take care of Ember during the day because Kiki was going to see appointments. There was some self-care that she needed to do. And I remember day 1, it feeling awesome. Like, daughter and I just went out to a cafe. It felt like an adventure. I felt energized by being able to be out of the house and experience something in the world with my baby. And then I remember day 2, entering the day with that same sense of enthusiasm and zest. But by the time 3-4 o'clock came around and Kiki came home, I was barely on this threshold, teetering on this edge of hitting my limit. I need to just withdraw into the cave of my office, play some video games, and decompress. And the 3rd day, I remember 30 minutes into just being with Ember, I had hit my limit. It was like, oh, I can't do this. And I walked back into the main space of our home, handed the baby over to my wife, and went back to my office, and I just started sobbing. I just let myself fall apart. Like, holy shit. I reached the edges of my capacity and had no more to give. And I just let myself fully collapse and fully cry at the heartbreak of that and the difficulty of that and the challenge of that. And we're going back out, asking for a hug. That felt good. And then I just went to my car and I just started screaming. Like, there was just like yelling to the car at the overwhelm. But here's a surprising thing. After that yelling in the car, that screaming, when I actually fully connected with the experience of overwhelm and of falling apart in my body, I actually felt re-energized. I felt deeply connected to myself. There was no more resistance. I hopped on a phone call, just chatted with a friend, and had the rest of my day. It turns out that the thing that makes falling apart hard isn't the actual falling apart. It's the resistance to the falling apart. And I'm actually experiencing that even as we're navigating how to be with Ember during her wailing. We've been learning about aware parenting, where the idea is when Ember's crying, assuming all her needs are met, diapers changed, she's fed, she's not tired, the feelings that come up are actually just an emotional release. And rather than try to make it stop, the role of a parent in that moment is really just to provide grounded presence, a container where she's able to just move through that emotion, knowing that she's held, knowing that she is safe, knowing that it's okay to feel those feelings. And then when she moves through that emotional release, she's back toward peace. And that's actually no different than learning how to hold ourselves as we're falling apart as adults. There will be moments where I'm hitting my limit, I want to collapse, and part of me resists. And as long as I remember to just stop resisting and just allow myself to fall apart, there's a knowing that on the other side of that, I'll feel renewed energy. And so really the beautiful lesson here is to embrace the falling apart and to use that welcoming of the falling apart experience to develop more capacity so that those emotional waves of defeat, of collapse, can just move through our body, and so we can come back to a place of ground. In the same way that our daughter does when she's wailing. The feeling is felt, and then she's back to her happy state.